from A Plan for Peace. It's 10th of September 2009 and I'm in Discovery Bay, San Francisco, and about to talk to Bill Henderson, the author of Cancer Free, about his protocol for enabling you to cure yourself of cancer and many other degenerative diseases. So, let's introduce you to Bill.
Hi Peter, how are you?
I'm great, thanks.
Well, good. We're glad to have you here, and thank you for coming and bringing your mom. She's a doll. Glad to meet her.
Thank you.
Well, we're sitting in the California sun today, and it's wonderful. Sunshine is one of the great things for health, as many of you know. Why would you want to listen to a gentleman like me with no letters after his name except MBA, which seems to have not much to do with cancer? Why would you want to listen to me about how to deal with cancer? Well, I'll tell you my background real briefly. My former wife got cancer diagnosed in 1990. And at the time, there was no information available that I could find. We went to the library and looked around and tried to find books on it, and they were all talking about, you know, support groups and how to deal with chemotherapy and radiation and the standard treatments, basically. And so we listen to the doctors, as most cancer patients do when it's first diagnosed. They find it's a major source of fear and apprehension. I think primarily, after all the experience I've had now with it, primarily what people fear is the debilitating effects of the cancer treatment. They've seen people go through what my former wife went through and how it made them walking skeletons with no hair and upchucking all the time, and it's horrible, the effects of the treatment. And I think that's what most people are afraid of, rather than the threat of death. I mean, death is at least as common from heart disease as it is from cancer, and yet a cancer diagnosis tends to cause people to go into shock and fear over it. This is unfortunate because there's no need to do that. It is relatively easy to reverse, I found. In the process of learning that, I lost my former wife in 1994 in November. She passed away of the after effects of the treatment for ovarian cancer. After all these years, I'm convinced it was the treatment that killed her and not the cancer, and this is true of almost all cancer patients, I think. So, along about 1998, I became aware of the amount of information even then on the internet for people who were interested in exploring options to cancer. What other things are available for me to try? There was a lot of information even then, and that's 11 years ago now. So I started researching this, and I thought, maybe I can help some people avoid the fate of my former wife by getting this information to them. So I started the process of trying to put this in a form of a book, and the first ebook was published in May of 2000 on the internet, and quite a few people in different countries bought this because it was relatively new at that point, documented information about how to deal with cancer without resorting to chemotherapy, radiation, surgery, etc. That evolved into 3 different books I've published now. This is 2009, we're talking in September, so it's been well over 9 years that I've been updating my information. I study cancer every day, I research it and talk to people about it, both people who've recovered, survivors, what worked for them, to doctors and to nurses and other medical professionals. And I think I've learned something about what works. There are literally 350 different natural treatments for cancer that have healed some people, hundreds, in some cases, thousands of people. None of them, unfortunately, work for everyone. So what I found was necessary was to devise a regimen that worked for most people simply because it would combine the things that addressed the things that needed to be addressed when you are trying to reverse cancer. And I found out what those are. The first, of course, is to rebuild the immune system. All cancer patients have a weak immune system. The product I now recommend for that is called beta-1,3-D-glucan. It is simply a particular brand of that substance. Beta-glucan is a very common substance, but this particular brand is unique, and we'll talk more about that later. The second thing I recommend, of course, is the cottage cheese flaxseed oil mixture, which is magical. It performs a necessary function of getting your cells more permeable, taking up more oxygen, breathing out more energy, and in the process they correct things that are wrong, including cancer tumors and other problems with cancer and other physical problems all over your body. The third thing I recommend is something to reverse or stop the metastasis of the cancer. The spread of cancer, metastasis as it's called, is the primary thing that kills cancer patients, not the tumors. The tumors are just symptoms. The metastasis is a result of inadequate treatment and breaking down the immune system and so on, to where the cancer spreads to other organs. So stopping that is important. The fourth thing I recommend reverses the acid nature of all cancer's bodies. It gets them more alkaline, and also feeds them all of the enzymes in the human body, literally. The fifth thing is what I call a cancer-fighting diet, and after studying lots of nutrition and dietary books, most of which are opinion, by the way, not science, I found that the main thing I could do is to help people, is tell them what to avoid, and we'll talk about that later. And of course, the last of the 6 things I recommend is simply a very powerful multivitamin mineral mix that has amino acids, antioxidants, all the things that our body needs in a given day. And no matter how perfect your diet is, in these days when most vegetables are grown in an environment that does not include enough vitamins and minerals, even organic food is lacking. So we need some kind of a multivitamin mineral to plug the holes, basically, in anyone's diet, including the one I recommend. So those things are simple enough, inexpensive enough, and comprehensive enough in dealing with the cancer that if one has dealt with the cause of the cancer, we can talk about that more later. If you've dealt with the cause, and there are only about 3 of those that I found that are very, very common, then this mixture, this simple mixture, inexpensive mixture, should reverse the cancer. And it does, it seems to, in better than 90% of the cases of people I deal with. The only exceptions are those where the person has put off dealing with what the original cause of the cancer was. You know, they've put it off for some reason. But other than that, this regimen, so-called, works very well. And I would add just one simple thing to that. If I could revise the book again, it was last updated in November 2008. I would add one thing, and that's vitamin D3. Very readily available, very inexpensive, but it's proven in studies, many of which have been published in the last 8 or 9 months, that this is one of the most important things we can take, and most cancer patients are very deficient in vitamin D. So vitamin D3, and at the level of 20 to 30,000 IU per day, literally, is important to recovery from cancer, and everyone should do that.
Okay.
Thank you, Peter.
So from what it sounds to me, you're saying that if people get cancer, they don't need to worry about it, because if they do the right things, then they're going to just get through it.
Absolutely. It is nothing more, folks, than a wake-up call, literally. It is getting your attention to the fact that your body is out of balance enough to have produced a cancer tumor that is identifiable by the doctor. And all this means, the tumor, of course, is a symptom, as I mentioned. The problem is the imbalance in your body, and restoring that takes care of the tumor. The body is very capable of dealing with cancer cells if we just get out of the way and give it some support in the way of revising our lifestyle, our diet, and so on. And if we've dealt with the cause of the problem, why did this occur to me? And this is an important message we'll cover later.
Okay, thank you, Bill.